Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the next edition of the Quantum Compass. Incoming, we have the Wavespell of the White World Bridger running from February the 13th to the 25th. And within that, we also have a new moon eclipse with one or two other coordinates to guide us on the way. My name is Davyd.
And I'm Bella, and this wave spell is a big one. So do pay attention. We're going to talk about 13 sign astrology. We're going to recommend a plant to work through this wave spell. And we'll go into a little bit about the cosmology and why this moment is so important.
Right, so as usual, there's a lot to get through. However, perhaps it's worth, as we always do now, taking just a few moments to review where we are right now as we're recording here on day 10 of the Red Magnetic Skywalker wave spell. And my word, it has been pretty far out. The Skywalkers have not disappointed. The universal energy has come very strongly from that frequency. Whether you're a Skywalker or not, it's all gone pretty multidimensional and surreal. Please do hit like and subscribe if you've got this far in the video. But most of all, please do comment on what's been going on for you, because we're now at the business end of this wave spell and we're feeling the incoming energy of the White World Bridger, which has come at a moment when it feels like we are going to bridge out of the old matrix paradigm into the new Earth frequency timeline. Is that what's going to happen? We don't know, but we're going to present the possibilities here as we usually do in the form of a presentation. So how do you want to just round out this wave spell, Bella, of the Skywalker? What's been coming to you?
So one of the things that the Skywalker is connected to is the idea of the Jedis. And we've seen the walk of the monks that have been walking across the US, and they to us represent the Jedis, anchoring the energy of peace, of kindness. And we're going to talk about them a little bit more because they are inviting us to a global meditation on the 11th of February. And I think many of us should join, since when just a few hundred of people meditate together, they can change the frequency of a whole country. So imagine if thousands of people join, the amount of shift that we could actually go through.
Right, and we're now in a place individually and also with our tribe members where we are experiencing instant manifestation. Quantum mechanics is very much at work. Many people clearly are not experiencing this, but for those of us, we who've done the inner work and been ready to receive the light codes, there have been some pretty spectacular inner transformations, many death and rebirths, and a lot else. But where one goes, we all go. And if we get there and we're the first one there, we're going to be on our own there. So the imperative is to come back and help everybody upgrade, up level together so that we can all experience this new reality together. And also, whilst we have so much inertia still in the resistance field of the masses, that is actually preventing the new reality from coming on visually with our visual optics, our eyes, in other words. But as Bella's just pointed out, the timing of these Jedi monks, they really carry the energy of Jedi so strongly, is absolutely impeccable for lots of reasons. If you've been paying attention to the Gogglebox, you'll know that they're not the only ones visiting Washington this week, but the Jedi get there on day 12, the day of cooperation, in the way spell of the Skywalker. I don't think we're making this up. I don't think that happened to be a coincidence for those guys, because their journey was meant to have finished already and they had to make some changes. And if you read the coordinates of the timing of their arrival, it's pretty damn Jedi precise.
Yeah.
Now, some of you out there might say, what is all this Jedi rubbish? They're just Star Wars fans. This is woo-woo mumbo jumbo. Well, you only have to go and look at the sacred texts in Egypt to understand that the Jedi were actually energetic constructions that in the form of a pillar. Please do go and research that. So the Jedi is a real thing, still returning to us in our consciousness, as indeed is the sci-fi world that Star Wars kind of portrays. Life is really stranger than fiction, folks. And we're here to tell you how strange it's going to get because it's already pretty weird, right, Bella?
And one of the other intentions of this wave spell that we're completing with the Skywalker was about adventure,
Right.
and inviting the higher self, the higher aspect of ourselves that can come and show us how we can enter into that avatar that allows us to be into a life that is, into a reality that brings more adventure. So basically, it bringing heaven to earth or bridging to 5D?
Right, thank you, Bella. That's a really important point. And in our tribe and here on our channel, we've been talking a lot over the last 4 years about the archetypal nature of the stellar nations pathway. We've been talking a lot about mythology, reading mythology perhaps as actual history and perhaps discarding the history that we've received because maybe it's not true, and generally just rewriting history in the way that we experience it. Many people would say you're just a load of weirdos doing God knows what. However, in our tribe, we are experiencing reality in quite a profoundly different way these days because of what we've been guided to be trained in. And that is the art of experiencing reality as it comes from Creator directly, which is always in the form of an unfolding story. The better you get at narrating your own story, the more enjoyable life becomes. That is what we are currently training to do with our Star Soul activations. If you remember on the recent talks with Ascended Master Zachariah of Assyria, he talked about these Star Soul activations. It's now happening for those of us who are ready to receive. If you are feeling, oh my gosh, I want to have my Star Soul activated, the best place to start is with Nature's Gift, which we'll come to in a minute. But let's get into the presentation because I think we're already covering some of it.
So the Wavespell that we're going to start is called the White Magnetic World Bridger Wavespell. It's quite a mouthful.
It's a bit of a tongue twister.
And it goes from February the 13th up to February the 25th. And as the name says it, I feel that is a moment where humanity is going to bridge, especially those of you that have done the inner work and have already gotten your coordinates of what you are bridging or where you're bridging to.
Right, and at the risk of sounding like we're slipping into spiritual snobbery, when you decide to do your inner work and release yourself from the density is when you decide to do it. Nobody is here to tell you when to do that or to sit in judgment of when you do or don't. However, from our experience, and as we've shared for a long time, it's actually fairly essential to start receiving the higher light codes, which is why we talk so much about having to release the density in our videos. But this, I think, Bella, is absolutely the moment where in order to bridge from the older, denser reality of the life that we've lived into the new life that we've always dreamed of, we have to let go of a bunch of stuff, and that includes the density, right?
Yes, and this world bridging has to do also with the amount of solar activity coming to the planet. We feel that it will intensify even more because it is part of the process. It's nothing to be scared of, but yes, to be focused. And we'll give you some more tips during the show on what needs to happen or what you can do actually to navigate this very important wave spell.
And if you've been following the show for a while, you'll probably know that the sun glyph also carries the energy of universal fire, enlightenment, and life. And I think that that's really what the sun consciousness is wanting to offer us in general.
So as I was mentioning, the Walk for Peace, I'm super excited following this, the Walk for Peace every day. And they are inviting us to the Global Loving Kindness Meditation on Wednesday, February the 11th, which is day 12 of this Wavespell of the Skywalker. It will be, there will be an online live stream. And what is happening now is that they are completing the whole journey of over 2,000 miles walking, even in terrible conditions, because there's been snow, awful wind, very cold conditions. And they are arriving in Washington on February the 10th. So by tomorrow, they are wrapping up the whole thing and then they return to Texas. So what I wanted to say here is a big thank you to what these monks have done. I have seen the testimonials of so many people that have been touched by just seeing them walking and bringing people into the simplicity of being present, breathing, thinking peaceful thoughts day by day, which is something that we all need to be doing, being mindful and remembering to be peaceful every single day, every single minute of the day.
Aho to all of that. And, if we were already impressed with what these wonderful, beautiful skywalking Jedi brothers have been doing, I'm completely blown away by the timing that they have somehow engineered to arrive not only on a day of cooperation, but literally the day ahead of what seems to be possibly a world-changing meeting to bring the unsolvable problem of our time to its conclusion, because it needs to until certain issues are resolved. we can't move forwards. And I believe that that's why these brothers have taken it upon themselves to do a march for peace across the land, spreading the frequency of peace. As Bella was showing me a video just yesterday, there are now thousands, tens of thousands of people following these wonderful men. And when they set out, nobody was following. Nobody even really knew about what they were up to. And I just think it's incredible. And also on the final day of this Wavespell, which is the 12th of February, Mercury, the messenger, is conjuncting the North Node, which is our collective future. Yes. So I don't think that's in any way a coincidence either.
So this is just another invitation on our behalf and on their behalf as well to join this meditation. You could do it individually, or you could just join the live stream. In either way, I think it's a very important thing that we could all collectively do to bring peace to the planet and to infuse the planetary grid with that vibration of peace and kindness, loving kindness.
Yeah. So maybe just off the back of that, if you are in any way not feeling the uplift of the vibrations that have been coming to the planet and maybe suffering from stress, anxiety, overwhelm, all of the above, and possibly more, we are very positively and strongly urging people to open nature's gift. We have had recent conversations with the Ascended Master Zachariah, who helped initiate this with really the totality of nature. And within this 2.5 hour educational healing transmission is not only a lot of information about the plants that you will need to get through this period, particularly this Wavespell of the World Bridger, but it also receives very, very profound quantum encoded healing energies from the plants, the elementals, and indeed quite a few other nature beings directly into your field. All you have to do is sit and receive. These are fairly essential. This is not coming from Davyd or Bella. This was something that we were asked to receive and then to share with you. And yeah, you have anything you want to add, Bella?
Well, that we have opened the sacred book of nature, and as a tribe, we're inviting all of you to come and join us.
Right, so really nature's gift was the final piece of healing that is needed into the field because there is still a lot to shift to being a cosmic human, ascended human. And somehow we've often had the impression that many people out there are sort of sofa surfing with their spirituality, just sort of looking at the clock thinking it must be about to arrive sort of about now, a bit like an Amazon delivery or something, right? Well, yes and no. It has arrived. The frequencies are here, but it's a bit like the need to get up off the sofa to go and open the door. There's still some action needed to receive those things. So just by simply having the intention to open nature's gift and then with whatever healing follows, many of our tribe have stepped into the space of the sacred book of nature, which is really a quantum direct manifestation experience. We're still trying to find the vocabulary for it because it's essentially a new reality that we are speaking from, living in, and working from.
So the way I'm experiencing the sacred book of nature is that this is the world bridging mechanism for all of us to enter new earth and to be part of nature's grid.
Yes. So we are almost finishing the first volume of the live run. Volume 2 won't be out for a few weeks yet. So if you are really wanting to, first of all, release all of the trauma that you may still be carrying from many lives, incarnation, parallel realities, or this life even, and wanting to step into your new vision and manifestation, this two-part thing with Nature's Gift and Sacred Book is what Zachariah, the Ascended Master, and all of his allies and guides, and many of ours too, have presented to us. And now that we're working in it, we understand why it is truly a different frequency experience. I don't know what else to say. It's pretty mind-blowing. But if you want to jump in, this is a great time to do so. You can jump in at any point, but really and truly, we're directing first and foremost to nature's gift, and then see how you feel once you have received that. But with everything we're doing, Bella, the most important thing is give yourself space. If you want to ascend, give yourself the inner time to ascend, not squeeze it in between shops and work.
Good. So now I'll go through the cosmology, the year, the Mayan year that we're following, the 13 moons and the Wavespell. And we're still in the resonant seed year. And this is very important because resonant means that we are attuning with the frequency of the cosmos. And as cosmic seeds are getting activated. And all of this has happened during the period of time that 3i Atlas came to our solar system. Let's remember that it hasn't left yet. And it will still be with us during the period period of time of this year, which is March the 16th is when it approaches Jupiter, and then it starts to leave the proximity of our planets.
And I don't think any coincidence in this resonant seed yet, as we're tuning to the seeds of Mother Earth, that we've been guided back fully into nature to work again with our hands in the soil, planting seeds. For it is nature that gives us all of our true abundance.
Right.
And certainly it's nature that gives us pretty much everything that we eat. So it's kind of essential to make friends with it.
And we are in the moon, the galactic moon, or moon number 8. And let's remember that this journey, we're actually currently in a 30 moon journey with a group that we started in July. So we're all going through the process, bridging this world. Before the convergence, we started the 13 moons and we bridged to this side where the energy is so much higher. And this is a wonderful instrument to synchronize ourselves and unify telepathically for the new time and the frequency of the Earth, because the Earth has already shifted, nature has already shifted, the animals have shifted. It's just down to us now to reach that vibration, that frequency.
Indeed, yeah, we have crossed now into the realm of the galactic moon, and we've been talking in recent weeks about the difference of the first 7 tones in a Wavespell and the last 6, because it feels once you get to 7 and then go beyond, you're sort of almost leaving the realms of the physical reality and going into the galactic, the solar, the planetary, and so on. So it's interesting now that we've come to this moon where all of the energies, and certainly this is what we were talking with that group about at the weekend, have gone very, very galactic. And we, as a group, have now opened up to a much more galactic conversation in general.
We talk about the galactic moon, that tone and this energy for 28 days has to do with harmonizing, with being in integrity, and the monks are showing us that as well. Walk with integrity and be very mindful of your words and your actions, and also integration of what's happened since July, which is also not only when we started the 13 moons, but when Atlas entered the solar system.
Right.
So what has happened for you and what's happened for the planet since that event? So we do expect this to increase. The energy keeps on increasing. The time has accelerated for sure, and March should be very interesting. But starting in this Wavespell, I expect to see quite a few interesting things.
Yeah.
So this is the 8th moon, the galactic moon of integrity, which runs from February the 7th. We just started it, and it goes up to March the 6th. The key words are harmonize and integration. The totem is this beautiful animal, the hawk. And the main question to ask ourselves over this moon of 28 days is, how do I resonate harmoniously with the golden timeline for New Earth? Are you resonating? Are you trying to reach the vibration of the new Earth, or are you still completely immersed in 3D and not being able to let go of many things that keep you down and keep you stuck? So did you want to add
I was just going to say, the obvious thing that comes to my mind in this is that when us humans are given the opportunity to dream, what I've witnessed in retreats and various ceremonies over the years is that given the absolute opportunity to dream of everything, the majority of folks still, through programming, invariably try to dream through the filters of the old paradigm, which invariably is, am I going to make money from my dream? That often seems to be the end result, even if that's not the intention, because underneath all of that is the fear of lack. But if you get rid of that and just dream from the totality of your heart, then the golden vision that your higher self holds for you in that timeline will manifest. So I just wanted to add that, Bella, because it's something that I've observed for many years. And it's not a criticism or a judgment, because I know that that's how we've received it. But when dreaming into the golden timeline, feel into what your heart wants to create for you.
And how do you want to live day by day?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of, do you want time for yourself,
Right.
for your hobbies, for your creativity, for your family, for rest, for nature, for traveling?
Right.
How do you see your new Earth? That is what we need to start dreaming about. And this totem is perfect to do so, because it is about a vision and the wisdom that comes with this energy. This energy is acting as a divine messenger, and it often appears as a sign to focus on your intuition intuition, and a higher perspective. It represents a spiritual alertness, a strength, and protection. And so what it's inviting us to do is to rise above the challenges and embrace this moment, because it is super important, this moment that we have come to. And I'll talk more about it because the astrology is absolutely powerful, and it's telling us pay attention to the messages from the spirit realm, and that includes your higher self, your guides, and all of the ancestors that are behind you, supporting you for this moment.
Right, beautiful. I love the images. I love the energy of the hawk, which we have described before, Bella, as being a little similar to the eagle. But when I'm feeling into the energies, what I always feel with the hawk is it's slightly quicker in the way that it reacts to situations. The eagle has the luxury of flying much higher and taking a more long-term view, whereas the hawk tends to be closer to us humans,
Closer to us, yeah.
closer to the earth. And of course, there are other smaller birds like the sparrow hawk or the kestrel, which also are smaller birds of prey again, and they move very, very fast, almost to the point that they come and go without you seeing them. So the birds of prey do have differences in quality, but would you say the hawk and the eagle do carry similar resonances?
They absolutely carry similar energies, but as you said, they are closer to us and they give us more signs. I see more hawks than I see eagles, for example.
And they're surprisingly big, aren't they? The hawks. We've had a few in the garden.
Right, so that's for the 13 moons. The question was clear. So how do I resonate harmoniously with the golden timeline for New Earth? That's very key. And then we go into the sacred round, which is the Wavespells, a cycle of 260 days. And the castle, we have already started the second castle, which is another cycle within the cycle of 52 days. This is the second Wavespell of the White Castle, and it's called the World Bridger. And as we were saying in the beginning, this feels like it's the one that bridges to the next part of our ascension.
Right, but I think it's also worth pointing out at this point again with the sofa surfing idea that bridging the worlds is a dynamic action.
Yeah, we need action.
It's not a passive thing that happens to you. And if you're in that mode, then it could happen to you in a way that is not exactly what you would have liked. So the key here is to work with the energies available, hence why we always do the quantum compass, because you can feel, if you're paying attention, the energy coming to you. And it's not that you're trying to avoid it, but it's you're trying to work with it, shape it.
You see the coordinates.
Yeah, it's a bit like being a potter, working with some clay. It's not that you're trying to throw it away because you just didn't like the way it came out the first time. It's like work with the energy, shape it into something useful, and then move through into the next piece of artwork that you're doing. Hence why time is art. Nothing needs to be discarded. Everything can be recycled and turned into something beautiful.
Right.
If you choose, including yourself.
And so here we can see the Tzolkin, and we are going from kin 66 up to kin 78. There are 3 galactic activation portals. The 4th day is one of the galactic activation portals, and my galactic
It's a very important day. It's the one that has had a big circle marked around it forever. But it is a very important day, regardless of it being your galactic birthday. Right?
And I'll talk about why it is important, not just because it's my galactic birthday. So here it is. I've marked the important events, astrological events connected to the Wavespell. We can see here that on day 4, which is a self-existing moon, is the day that Venus becomes visible and becomes the evening star. It's a very important transition in the cycle of Venus. And let's remember that the Mayan followed very closely every movement of Venus. Then we have on day 5, with the white dog, is the day of the new moon and the eclipse. So another big astrological moment. And then on day 8, we have the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn on a skywalking day. So on the day we're integrating the current Wavespell, there is the big conjunction of these two planets. So it's a very, very important Wavespell, not only astrologically. Let's remember that as above, so below. Everything that is happening in the sky will reflect in our reality, in the geopolitics, in our lives, in the dynamics on how things happen. So that's what we need to be paying attention, since this energy of the World Bridger is about life and death. It's about end of cycles, of big cycles. It's about the connection with the spirit of the ancestors. It's also about letting go, total detachment. What are you still attached to that is not going to serve you in new earth? It's about accepting the cycles of, just like we accept every day that there is a day and the night, we also need to accept that there are many cycles that are now ending, and we need to do it with forgiveness. So if your heart is still heavy, still with resentment, still guilt, or whatever is still in your heart, we need to work on that on this wave spell, because we can't bring any of that density into the next part of the process. So we need total surrender, release, serenity, transmutation of all of those things I just mentioned, because it is a moment of revelation. And that's what I'm seeing with this very big, important astrological dynamic.
Yeah, well said, Bella. Exactly in agreement with all of that. And, whenever we share things here on our channel, and I'm sure you, our brothers and sisters, our audience understand, we're never here to scare people or doom and gloom. We're really here just to advise from the place of our own experiences, because they might be somehow useful in a shared capacity, and to try and read as best we can as a moon and a skywalker, reading the world, reading the energy as they come towards us, so that when we have moments like this, we can feel into what is really going to happen. And if you're watching the news or other channels, and of course we're a channel too, so you don't have to believe anything we say, but we always suggest to feel into the coordinates which we've flagged up and feel the energy yourself. But this world bridger really is asking us to go the extra yard, and we're sharing this in this moment, having done this process just recently, and know how challenging it is to let go of the old world, because it requires you to let go of all of the things, all of the grievances, all of the traumas, all of the things that are very much attached to your personality. It is a moment of the dissolution of self, not completely. It's a form of a conscious living death. This wave spell, more than any in the Tzolkin, represents that opportunity. And coming straight off the back of a Skywalker, coming straight off the back of the cosmic human, it's telling us that we're about to bridge into the experience that many of us in QPW are already experiencing and wanting others to experience. But you have to come to a place of understanding that if you are still projecting thoughts that other people are still doing things to you, that it's their fault, that the government did this and it's their fault, and it's those mother weffers and it's their fault. Well, yes, on some level it is, but to come to a place of sixth dimensional balance, you have to actually equalize, as the world bridger would say, those feelings out, because even if they feel supremely justified and righteous to you, they're actually bringing you out of balance. They're a dualistic, polarized experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if that is a baseline operating system that you are in most days, it's going to be difficult to experience the new Earth multidimensional frequency, right, Bella?
Right. And there are some shadows that we can observe besides what we just talked about, things to do with control issues, fear of death. Let's remember we're eternal beings.
Yeah.
So if you still have any fear of death, that is something to be addressed at this moment. Any resentment is the emotion that is most linked to cancers. All types of cancers have this emotion at the core as a bioshock. So it's important to let go of any resentments with anybody and do your forgiveness process. And then there are other things that we can do in terms of transformation, which is trust and enjoy this journey, because this is the farthest we've been in the ascension process ever, humanity ever. We've never been here before. And so right now there will be a lot of cognitive dissonance from some people. So it is a good moment to let go of any fears and limitations, since we want to hold space for the collective. The people that follow this show, I'm sure most of you have done your processes, your inner work. There are people that haven't, and we need to hold space for many of them. And that global meditation with the monks is a very important frequency that we're going to infuse into the planet. So the final tips for this wave spell are release and forgive. welcome the new opportunities. What is coming on the other side of all of this is amazing. It's new earth, is what we've been looking forward to. And so it just needs the final adjustments for us, and embrace the highest version of ourselves. Many of us have been downloading the highest version of ourselves, and our higher selves have been showing us all of the potentiality that there is there. Many people in our tribe, and we're creating something absolutely beautiful to share with all of you, but I won't do any spoilers.
Yes, well said, Belen. Really and truly, it's worth just understanding some essential facts. Everything in the universe is frequency. Everything that we perceive to be good and joyous is a certain frequency. Everything that we have a sort of aversion to and don't like is also a frequency. And those frequencies span a spectrum. We give them names. We give ourselves names, titles. We call them things like nature spirits, plants, angelics, and many other things. But essentially, they're all on a glorious radio station, which we, the humans, are an antennae for. And if we can learn to read the manual for the radio station that we are and learn where are the points on the radio dial, really and truly, we can learn to speak to anything in the universe. Now, this might sound pretty far out and preposterous, but for those of us who were doing this all the way through with Atlas, 3i, and the other comets, it's actually not that difficult. And so it's easier to receive information directly from source rather than coming through 4 or 5 other social media platforms and the National Space Agency local to you. So we share this from the point of view that in the new reality of New Earth, the baseline operating system is non-dual and also Christed consciousness, which means that you need to be in the impeccable place of the heart. That is the baseline frequency. Now we're in a transition period moving into that. And what is happening, as we've talked about and Zach has talked about, is the light inflammation. That light inflammation is wanting to alchemize and transform the density that is still in everybody's fields, which is why many of us at various points have been feeling tired, sluggish, as that alchemization process happens, but it also requires an inner standing of what's being alchemized. So here, the real question for each and every one of us is, do I perceive myself to be in that level of the Christ consciousness? And if the answer is no, because I'm still getting triggered and firing at people, then that is where the work is needing to be done during this Wavespell of the World Bridger. And can be helped by things like Nature's Gift or whatever your go-to practice is. But this is the moment. It's time to fly, really.
And it's very symbolic that the new moon and the annular solar eclipse is happening on day 5, connected to the white dog, which is the heart, and it represents unconditional love. So it is going to get eclipsed, and that means we all need to go into our heart at that moment and bring the energy of our hearts, which is unlimited, but we need to be able to remove any barriers that are there. And then we go into the huge conjunction of Neptune and Saturn, which marks a whole new cycle and beginning as well. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the
Is that on the day of the Galactic Skywalker?
Yes.
So the integration of the Galactic Skywalker is coming with the first Neptune Saturn meeting in Pisces for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
I think that could be significant.
Yes. And remember that we'll talk about it in the astrology.
Right.
And so let's wrap up the Wavespell here. What we recommend is just follow the questions day by day during the Wavespell and define a purpose for this Wavespell. If we know that it's about life and death, changes, end of big cycles. So what is it that you are ready to end and then finalize and move on to the next level of your higher self, being able to come into your vessel because you've been able to create a space for it. We need to remove what doesn't serve us, which is density, limiting beliefs, any trauma, everything we keep on talking about, so that your higher self can actually come and be part of this new life and guide you through the process.
Right.
So we'll go into the astrology, and it's absolutely huge, as I was saying. The Aquarius sign runs from February the 14th up to March the 9th in the 13th sign astrology, which is the true astrology where we look at the constellations. If you have a look with your telescope or with your app, it's exactly where the planets are. Western astrology is offset by over 1500 years because they're still using what was used at the time. So, one of the things that I'm also reviewing is the archetypes, not only of the signs, but also of the planets. Because let's remember that all of these archetypes were passed on to us by Sumerians, Babylonians, and Greek. So, why are we still following those archetypes? They are part of the collective mind. But if we're evolving astrology, are we going to still using the same, or can we upgrade them? What can we do to bring an astrology that is the astrology of the new earth? So with that in mind, this image reflects a whole different way of looking at Aquarius. Normally it used to be in the mythology of the Greek, is representing Ganymede, and he's pouring the water down. But actually, if we look deeper into what Aquarius represents, it's about being humane, loving, and innovative. Is the eternal wisdom that is pouring down for all of us. It also brings revolutionary changes and is about understanding the big picture. We need at this point that many people to be able to read the bigger picture of where we're all going and not be immersed in the day-to-day little things that are actually not letting us see that big picture. It does have some shadow, this energy of Aquarius. It can be self-righteous and arrogant and intransigent, but we want to elevate all of these to bring more of that unconventional solutions, being more original, authentic, humanitarian, and to collaborate with others in projects. And this happens during the month of February, which tells me it is correct to read the signs from this point onwards, because February was the Roman festival of purification, and they used to bring the women and do the whole ritual about fertility and childbirth, and they would be showered with sacred waters for renewed fertility. It would be a time of rain, and obviously rain brings fertility to the land. And when we look at the symbol for Aquarius, it's connected to the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic symbol for water. So in Western astrology, we've been told, okay, Aquarius is air. I don't see the connection to air. I see a full connection of a feminine energy that brings wisdom and that brings water. And water, we understand that the water comes from the cosmos and is the one that reconnects us again to the cosmos. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that part.
Well, I agree with you. It makes more sense, and the way the 13 sign sidereal astrology is playing out at the moment also seems to be making more sense from a loftier vantage point. Now, if you're believing the narratives being pumped in 3D, then the Western tropical system makes more sense because that's the one that's pumping the false narratives. It's coming through the same filter. But if you take a step back and feel into it, which is how we've been feeling the 13 signs, it feels deeper somehow. It feels like we can settle into the energies the same way we have been with the 13 moons. And from that perspective, really Pluto moving into Capricorn has felt so much more correct and on point in this moment than to say that Pluto has moved into Aquarius, which I sort of get why people are saying that. And for sure, we have moved into a sci-fi world. But I think that's because we've just realigned the timelines with the universal time codes rather than because it's something to do with the Western tropical system. Now, that might trigger some people. Sorry for that, but that's just how I'm feeling it right now. But as always, would love to hear people's thoughts on this. And I'm just thinking of the Pluto situation because it's the most striking at the moment. And I do sense a lot of what could be Aquarian energy incoming, but I also sense a lot of more Uranian energy incoming rather than Aquarian personally.
Exactly. So I think it's coming from what is happening in Aquarius. And let's remember that Uranus is the higher octave of Venus. So that's why I also see a correlation. And Venus is doing something amazing also during this wave spell, which I'm going to talk about. So let's have a look at the sky. This is from a stellarium, and we see the sun about to enter Aquarius. So if you look at the sky, the sun is going to be there. And it's the day one of the wave spell on February 13. We can see Venus is right there in the middle of Aquarius, and Mercury is also there with the water bearer. But I like this water bearer
I love that
picture
image,
more
first and foremost.
than this one. But anyway. And so then we move to day 4, which is the self-existing moon day, and Venus then appears as the evening star after the superior conjunction that happened in January, and that's when she becomes Aphrodite, Urania. She becomes the goddess of love, the sky goddess, and her influence is huge. For many thousands of years, civilizations followed the movements of Venus and realized that after these points, many big changes happened. So, this energy of the evening star influences change and harmony on a global scale. So, I do see something huge happening from this moment onwards. And look at the position of Venus right in the middle of the flow of wisdom and what we were talking about with the archetype. And then the day after, on February 17, which is day 5, we have this annular solar eclipse also happening in Aquarius. And so when we talk about this, we get to see the solar corona, and it's exactly at 12:12 universal time. I mean, there are so many synchronicities. And this energy is of new beginnings. Obviously, it's a new moon. But besides that, this kind of eclipse brings big new beginnings for the planet. It illuminates hidden issues. It balances light and dark. And I see a lot of that happening. We all heard about the Epstein files and how it affects the whole world and the geopolitics and everything else.
Everything.
So a lot of things are coming to the light to bring back the balance. And it's a good moment to reevaluate your personal goals, see where this is happening on your chart. But there is a big transformation that happens in this wave spell, and we'll probably see it during the wave spell or later on. But it's the marker. To me, if I needed a marker for an age of Aquarius, I think this is it. Eclipse happening there. Venus doing her move right there in Aquarius as well. I think is the moment of big transformation and change for the collective.
And just to add to what you're saying, it's on the slides, but this seems a good moment to interject it, is that on that day with that new moon, Venus conjuncts the North Node, which is all about the future. Yeah. It's where we're all going. So we have that new moon intentional setting, we have an eclipse, and we have Venus basically having a conversation with our future, which is, I wish to be a strong part of your future, is how I'm reading it, that the future needs to have the heart of the goddess.
But if you're following Western astrology, you're missing out on all of these things. So just for you to have a look and review your chart. On day 8, which is February the 20th, this is super big as well. This to me is also a marker of the change of the era, because Saturn, this is where Saturn and Neptune are. They are in Pisces. They are not, they haven't moved. They're still years from where Western astrology believes they are. So Neptune and Saturn are in conjunction in Pisces, the place where we all end this big chapter. The degree is 11 as well, which is a master number, and it's a big cycle. The last time they were conjunct, it was in 1989, but I was looking back in time, and there was another similar conjunction in 1702, 1703. They were conjunct for many months from 1702 to 1703. And what is interesting about that period of time is that there were many similar conditions, like there was also a solar eclipse, there was also a comet in the sky that was registered, and it was the big moment where there was the Queen Anne's War, when there was the war for control of America, where France was involved, Britain was involved, here in the Americas, the Native Americans were involved, and from that moment onwards, the whole world changed. From that point onwards. And so what it's telling me is that this conjunction brings huge changes, where we can restructure the dreams that we have, including our spirituality. And it's a moment for all of us to bring the visionary part of ourselves, the pioneering ideas, and bring them into this new reality.
It feels very, very big, and a couple of things just hit me. So, if we're looking at numbers per se, Neptune and Saturn conjuncting the 11 degrees of Pisces in the 1320 calendar, the 11th tone is one of liberation, which I find interesting. But also, where was I going to go with this? If any of you out there listening are indeed a Galactic Skywalker tone for this day, please do reach out in the comments as a way of holding this energy. And in fact, anyone who has birthdays in the upcoming White Well Bridget, please do let us know. And this is something moving forwards. If we all know that we're working together or watching, acknowledging, being present with the energies, then we can all hold the people who are the glyph bearers. That's why we actually started the tribal glyph map. So when we have a day coming up that one of our brothers or sisters has their birthday, we send all the supporting energy there to them so they're able to hold that energy. So this is maybe something moving forwards, but yeah.
So I think here with the image of a stellarium, we can see very clearly the end of the cycle marked by Neptune and Saturn, and then the Sun, Venus, and Mercury still in Aquarius having an eclipse, a whole new beginning. It's like, what else do we need to see that show us here is this is the big moment? And you can see here on the right that we have the Moon conjunct Mars.
Yeah, Mars is a bit in the picture.
So you want to go deeper into the
Well, yeah, we've covered many of the major points already, but as always, we work on the left from the 13 sign sidereal astrology, and now that software has been upgraded and we can include more of the asteroids. We're just learning how to do that. Yeah. So I include the tropical version on the right, not because we're using the houses or the signs, but because we can include extra asteroids that we can't on the software for the left. So it's more just to find them easily, but we'll work from the slides on the left. We've covered the new moon, also Venus conjuncting the North Node, Saturn conjuncting Neptune. These are the major things actually that are going to happen. We have the moon, the new moon with the self-existing tone just the day before. So there is a very strong moon energy and very strong energy of endings and new beginnings. But a lot of this is really wrapped up in the descriptions of the world bridging energy. Mm-hmm. It's death, equalization, and opportunity. And the way I understand the three words together, it's through the equalization, the death process, that the opportunity of the rebirth comes. Mm-hmm. But unless you go through that equalizing process, then you don't get the benefit of the uplift of the rebirth. And so if we're looking for various clues and markers, there really isn't that much in this particular Wavespell. And honestly, Bella, it feels like
it's huge.
It's
huge.
It's huge, but there aren't so many movements, there aren't so many moving parts. We have the very, very big offset of the moon itself with the eclipse, but for the rest of the Wavespell, up to the Saturn conjunct Neptune, we don't have the smaller movements that were filling the Wavespells, or particularly the last Tzolkin. So it seems as if the new moon sets up this shift. Venus then confirms, yes, we're moving forwards into the North Node with the energy of the heart. Then Saturn and Neptune get together. They've been having this ongoing discussion about the changing of reality. Saturn is our form and structure. Neptune is the lord of the unseen, really, the watery depths. We can also say in many ways that Neptune is a bit like the ruler of the sunken Atlantis, which may be returning both energetically, etherically, and maybe even physically, with the Earth going through a lot of movements, lots of glaciers melting, lots of earthquakes, pretty much things happening everywhere.
So what I was mentioning earlier, that this same position of Saturn and Neptune in Pisces was part of 1702 and 1703. It was the time of the great storm in southern England, where there were huge floodings, lots of people perished there. And there were huge earthquakes in Italy in the range of the high 6.8 and more. And so there were historical events and many changes on the Earth. So there are many similarities on those two cycles happening now.
Right, thank you. And again, if you've happened to scan at all through the various news narratives, you may have seen the very, very terrible situation that's unfolding in Sicily, with a town just literally dropping off and disintegrating as the earth cracks and opens. And that's not the only place that's happening. If you spend any time, if you have the inclination to, just to scan through various narratives from around the world, you'll be surprised at how many places things like this are happening. That to me feels like part of this structural shift that water, melting glaciers, rising sea levels is going to bring to Saturn, who was the existing structure in which we existed and on which we existed. I think that we're looking at quite a big major planetary upheaval incoming. And with that, the suggestion is most of all to make sure that you are set within your own personal four pillars, your four directions, your own personal Saturn, for when Neptune goes to work you want to make sure that your structure is going to be able to withstand whatever that looks like.
Do
So I think that's it. There isn't so much to say, really. A couple of other
you
things.
want to go through these points?
Yeah, we'll just go through them. So it kicks off the beginning of the Wavespell on day 3. Venus in Aquarius is going to square Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio. That feels like a little tussle of some old adversaries of the feminine sort. Perhaps now Venus is meeting Lilith more as her sister and equal, because Lilith has now extracted herself from the underworld and has gone through a full transformational process. And our planet of the Wavespell is deeply connected to that. I think this is also important, Bella, in the context of what you were talking about. The Sun in Sagittarius is going to square Uranus in Taurus, which feels like a bit more of that energy that you just highlighted.
The sun.
The Sun at 2 degrees of Aquarius is squaring Uranus in Taurus. So it feels like there is a tension point there with the solar energy, with technology maybe bringing unexpected changes, maybe electrical sparks. Could be all of those things. Do you have any thoughts on that in relation to the incoming energy, or?
I do feel the incoming energy of big electromagnetic energy, big solar flares. And one of the things that we'll probably talk about the plants in a minute,
Yeah.
but there are plants that can help us process the amount of light and energy that is incoming, and our body is be releasing all of that density. So if you're feeling like aches and pains, we definitely have.
Yeah.
There are things that we can do with plants, but we always recommend movement and exercise, or at least stretching and yoga, something like that.
And again, just referring back to the conversations with the Ascended Master Zach, talking about light inflammation, and again, in nature's gift, that's very well accommodated. There are plants in there that will absolutely help ground and center.
Yeah.
But I find it also really beautiful that on your galactic birthday, with that self-existing tone, Mercury is going to be trining Jupiter in a lovely harmonious aspect. So maybe Mercury bringing more news from the incoming future about how it's all going to work.
Innovative ideas and the expansion of the new ideas.
And Jupiter in Gemini showing that the expansion can perhaps be with both masculine and feminine. One doesn't need to be over the other. Both can be in perfect harmony and balance. The twins have finally worked it out, maybe. Who knows? We then have that new moon eclipse and Venus conjuncting the North Node, which feels very significant. Then we have the integration of this wave spell when Saturn conjuncts Neptune. That also feels pretty strong. And then as we head towards the end of the way spell, Mars in Capricorn has a nice sextile with Chiron in Pisces, which is interesting for the piece that we'll look at in a second. And also there's a nice harmonious trine there with Venus and Jupiter. And then we finish this wave spell really with an interesting square between the Sun in Aquarius and Black Moon Lilith, which kind of follows on to the beginning of the next wave spell. So before I do that, do you have any thoughts on anything here?
I think that Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio is still showing us that we will hear some of the information that people haven't seen, or of the disclosure that many of us probably that watch these kind of channels, we've known about it for years, but the collective still hasn't been informed. So I think Black Moon Lilith here is just going to show them, not very deep or not very dark, but enough so that people have their wake-up moment, remove the cognitive dissonance, and we all get on to the next part of the journey of ascension.
Right. It does feel like these kind of little squares here in this way spell are not super necessarily challenging, but they are going to bring up things that maybe could be challenging for some people. As always, Lilith has quite a strong role to play in this. She is cleansing or helping to cleanse the last of the underworld in which she inhabited so long. And of course, that's manifesting in our world through the e-files and all of the not very pleasant things that are in there, all of which does need to be released. It doesn't need to be dwelt on. I don't think any of us want to do that. And those of us who've looked at that in various ways over the last years have basically done the release work.
I'll mention just two more things. One is what we have in Capricorn, which is Pluto doing the destruction of many systems, and we're seeing geopolitically, the amount of changes that are happening, many governments are changing, the currencies are changing, financial system, absolutely. Look at the price of silver and gold reaching maximum heights, and we don't think that they're going to come down too much more. So they're going to become unobtainable. So the whole world of metals and minerals is going to be a game changer for all of the countries. And there in Capricorn is also Mars with more action, infusing more of that energy that is changing, and Uranus in Taurus bringing more of these innovative changes of new digital currencies, blockchain, currencies that are going to be backed by those minerals. So huge changes around the globe.
Right, and you've just hit on a note there, of course, Black Moon Lilith is in Scorpio, which is in the financial axis. And what are these e-files doing? They're showing how the crooked financial system was completely rigged with all of the shorting that the banks were doing, particularly against silver, but all kinds of commodities and assets. And where was all of that?
Silver representing the goddess.
Silver representing the goddess. And what was all that money that was being extracted from us illegally going towards? It's all in the e-files, which is what makes that the absolute nexus of everything that in our world needs to be purged out.
Yeah.
You don't have to go very far into those files to get the general idea. Yeah.
The North Node there, and what we were looking at of North Node, Venus, and the amount of energy, the Sun, Pallas Athena. So a lot of feminine water energy in Aquarius. It tells me that where we're going is where we're going to protect women, children, and where the wealth will be redistributed so that we all have, it's not just for a few elites. The money of the planet was held by less than 5% of people. And that's why there's been so much poverty in so many countries and so much pollution and so many horrible things happening. Criminality and everything is all connected to the same. But if the wealth is redistributed to everybody, every country should be at a level playing field, I think. And everybody deserves clean water, free energy. We should be having free energy. It was discovered hundreds of years ago, and we should have it again. I get a bit passionate about it.
And as you were saying all of that, I was just pondering, many people might find it difficult to think of the feminine being in the underworld, but we've only got to look to see who Mr. E's accomplice was. It was not somebody being forced to do anything, was very much a female and doing it because they could. And
The monarchy.
and the monarchy and many things. So if we are in the mindset of like, what is Lilith doing in the underworld? Well, we can see that one of the big madams of the underworld is very much in those files, and she's not the only one. So it doesn't matter whether it's masculine, male, or female or feminine in this story. Both sides, all sides have been involved in what is in those files, which is really the lower notes of the fall that humanity, we the collective, all had to go through and signed up to be a part of. And those villains, as we like to think of them, perhaps are not really the villains at all. They were just upholding their side of the deal, which is we have to represent the underworld. If you start to think of everything in the way that this plant, Artemisia absinthium, or Lady Wormwood, or Artemis does, you come actually away with a different perspective on things, which is very non-dual and just accepts that this is just a huge rebalancing of the scales of karma. What happened in previous lifetimes has had to play out in the equal and opposite in this on all sides and all directions. It's easy to say these things and a little bit difficult to really believe them when you see some of the turgid rubbish that's served up on the television. I totally get that. But if you have the capacity and the desire to really be non-dual and to ascend, you can go into meditation and ponder on all of these things and meditate your way through them until you come to that place of seeing through your own experiences how not to judge, how to be of unconditional love and compassion for yourself and all the other beings that have been on both sides of the fence. Imagine if you had been under a huge spell from somewhere that made you do things that at the time you thought were okay. Only when that spell is removed sometime later to realize to your horror that these things are really not okay. That could be the position some people are finding themselves in. So I just use that as a way of trying to lessen the anger, the self-righteous, vitriolic anger that many people are beginning to express about stuff. We totally get it. Maybe some of us did this a number of years ago, so we can understand it. And those of you who know what we're talking about, it's part of our responsibility at this time to hold that for those who are not in that place yet.
Remember that anger is stored in our liver, and our liver gets affected if you have resentment and anger there. Dandelion is a great plant that can help us with that. But did you want to recommend Wormwood?
So we both had our little soapbox rant there. That's one of mine. And this is the plant and the archetypal being or frequency that I've been working with. We've been working with, and many of you out there have been working with for a long time. The energy of Artemis, the goddess, and the Artemisia family is unparalleled in the plant world. They are impeccable, uncorruptible, and really goddamn strong if you ask them to work with you in releasing the things that no longer serve you. And so I've included here two slightly different images of Wormwood. One is Artemis herself, the ruthless hunter and twin sister of Apollo. And here on the right is the green fairy in the form of absinthe, two different versions of Wormwood. But I also see her these days as the restored silver queen of the Wormwood or of the serpent wood. For she is, like Mugwort, very connected to the dragons and serpent energies, working through our own meridians and the earth.
So what is coming to me is that we saw that Black Moon Lilith is in Scorpio, and if there are issues of your past that are coming up, bubbling up, connected to the lower nodes of Black Moon Lilith, the underworld, or the things that happened in your past that you're still ashamed of, that can't let go of, that were traumatic, all sorts of things that are, we know what we're talking about, right? More lower serpent energy, right? So this is a great plan to work with. This one and Mugwort will help you work with all of those things, taking the teas, so that you, with intention, remove all of these imprints from your field. And maybe you want to add
Well, I just want to second what Bella said. I mean, the Artemises are generally known for being great parasite removers, but as you all know, watching this show and many others that we've done, Mugwort especially has a vast range of skills. But the same is really true of her great granddaughter Lilith, Silver Queen of the Wormwood, or just Lady Wormwood. You know, she has the capacity not just to remove parasites, but most of all, she has the capacity to remove a much bigger parasitic energy, which really we can wrap up into a simple term that we call the lower ego matrix mind. That mind is still somewhat connected to the programming algorithmic rollout cycles that come from the artificial intelligence that actually has been holding this reality together, or otherwise known as the matrix. This is something that we all have inside of us. It's been there for a variety of reasons, some good and some not so good, but now it's obvious that it's not serving us and it's keeping many people stuck in cycles. This plant will help your lower mind be freed from this more parasitic overlay that it's suffering from, so that your lower mind can really come into harmony with your heart mind or your higher mind. Then we can say that you're cooking with gas. Your lower mind is here to do the work of your higher divine mind, and it absolutely loves doing that work, because it's a bit like a dog who needs its owner to put it to work in good use, like a sheepdog, for example. It wants to do that work, but it needs to be trained.
And the whole teaching, if you've been listening to the monks on the Walk for Peace, every day they deliver some teaching. And the main one across the whole period of time of these months since October is every day, just work on your mind.
Yes.
Like, don't wake up to your phone every day, because then your mind is already gone. Don't take your phone to the toilet, because you can't even rest if you're always with the phone. Be mindful of everything you say, of every single thought. Don't say anything if you don't have anything good to say. Write down every day, today is my peaceful day. So there are a series of things, but the main thing is to keep your mind in check. You know, what am I thinking? Because we have thousands of thoughts every day. And so if they're not useful, don't follow them. Come back to the center and work on your mind through meditation, through gardening, through art. There are many things that you can do to come back to being present. Again, Dandelion is telling me, yes, I'm the best one to be present. So the tea of Dandelion will always bring you to the present, to the now.
Well said. And, you know, really and truly, just finishing on that Wormwood note, Wormwood knows the underworld incredibly well. She has energetically, archetypally spent a lot of time in that realm posing as Lilith. And so she understands all of the parasitic siphoning, blackmailing, leveraging. She knows all about it. In fact, the Artemis is a specialist in this kind of underworld stuff. If you feel that you still have those kinds of soul contracts or underworld issues seem to be bothering you more than you would like, definitely work with that plant. Another one to connect to is Tulsi, who is the keeper of the sacred book of souls and soul contracts, all of which is featured
Many
actually
of
in.
them are in Nature's Gift and the Sacred Book of Nature. You learn so much about plants there.
Right, so it's not quite in this way spell, but it's right on the cusp, and wanted to include it because of how it just kind of wraps up a lot of what we've been talking about. Ceres conjuncts Chiron in Pisces on the 26th of February. You can see it, yeah, up here at 34 degrees of Pisces. Now, what does that mean? It's incoming literally at what is that? Midday here, so 6 p.m. on the 26th of February. But if we take the energies of Ceres as the goddess of the harvest and the corn, also the mother of Persephone, who runs off, of course, to spend half the year in the underworld with Hades. And here we have Chiron, the wounded healer. I have my feeling on this, but do you have one you want to put forward first, Bella?
Well, first of all, I suggested Ceres as the planet or planetoid or asteroid that should be the ruler of Virgo together with Venus. And so if we're thinking that we're ending a cycle that is marked by Saturn and Neptune, that conjunction is showing us, okay, this is it in Pisces, we're done, get ready to shift. This tells me that the healing is done together with nature, and many people are going to be needing healing, physical healing, mental healing. A lot of people are in really bad shape mentally, and they do need help. And the plants and nature is opening the arms and saying, I can help. And Ceres is the perfect representation of what that means.
Exactamente. That's why I wanted to include this. It will kick off the next wave spell. Do you happen to know off the top of your head what the next wave spell is? The blue, is it the night or?
Oh, I don't have it
I
here.
don't have it here either, but it kicks off the next wave spell, and you can read it from the.
Yeah, we can have a
Oh
look
yeah,
at
of
the
course.
castles. So the next one is going to be, I think, the storm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the storm.
Right, so we're moving. Look at the sequence here, everybody. Skywalker, which is really deep universal recon. If you know Stellar Nation's Pegasus work in many ways. Then we go into World Bridger, which is kind of bringing the heaven down to earth. It's the real bend bit of the Skywalker. So we start to get more of a feel, or we have been, of the story that plays itself out through the merging and blending of the day-to-day glyphs, but also the wave spells and castles. Then we move into this world bridging piece, shifting from the old reality that is collapsing the crazy stuff going on in the financial market. If you are watching that at all, should let you know that we are being shown that the system was rigged. There is no way for us little people to make anything from those markets unless you're insider trading, which is meant to be illegal, but now is really seemingly the only way that people are doing any of that. So that all is collapsing around us, which for many people is scary if that's how they've been basically funding their life, is from that whole illegal activity, whether they were aware of it or not. That indicates that there is going to be a new form of abundance incoming, which is going to come really from the ground up. It's going to come through all of us, and it's going to be something completely different. But if we're still really, really attached to the numbers in our bank balance and all of those things, it could be kind of painful when that switch comes. Do not fear the switch. The switch, however it looks, you have to feel into it, because there may be one or more options that are presented, and maybe not all of them are the best one. Anything that requires you to give up any sovereignty, I would suggest, is not the best option. Really try to feel into what wants to come through from the within. That is the world bridging that those of you who follow this show, I think, probably are more adept at and aware of. Because we are having to hold the space for all of those people who don't watch this show and don't know these things. And even with a little bit of humor, deadly serious, make those intentions really strong for this way spell. Have the inner commitment that you wish to shift. If need be, call on the plants. If you think that you need some big shifting, definitely open nature's gift. Do whatever is necessary. But if you're waiting for a sign that the ascension process is underway, it's been underway for a while. This is the sign.
This is another
Yeah.
crescendo moment.
And if we need any confirmation, those badass Jedis posing as the monks have absolutely kicked us across the
Yes.
country.
Please remember the global meditation on February
Yeah.
11. That's why I wanted to put the quantum compass out earlier so that many of you got to tune into that as well.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Bella, for highlighting this whole walk with the monks. Because when you started watching it, and as of Buddhist student. I was like, this is really cool, but it didn't seem to have much energy behind it. But you watched it every day, and bit by bit, day by day, the energy gathered around it. And the more that we followed it and all of the dramas and bits and pieces, the more we realized it was actually very much in sync with a lot of what we've been doing in a tribe, which was further validation that we are all doing this together. We are doing this together,
And
all
you
of
know,
us.
it's beautiful that when they started the walk, we had a gathering with our
We
tribe,
did.
also here
Yes.
in Austin, and which is where the monks also
They
started the
passed
whole
through it.
journey. So it was all very synchronistic, many Jedis working together.
Right, and you know, you can tell that these men are really Jedis by the strength in their field, not least of all the fact that they're walking something like 30, 40 miles, not even kilometers, but 30, 40 miles a day. I can see that somebody, bless them, has kitted them out with some proper snow boots because it looked kind of cold. So thank God they've been well equipped. But they've done this every day for how many days now?
108, 110 days.
110
Yeah.
days. It's phenomenal. Anyone who's ever walked 30 miles just in one day will know how difficult that is.
They were walking between 22 and 32 miles per day in the snow, in the cold, in the rain, in the heat, all sorts of conditions.
That's Jedi mind training that allows them to do that. They have other city skills that I'm sure that they've learned how to keep warm and stuff, but it's still really, really disciplined. And when you look at these monks, they are showing us if you want to be impeccable, you need to be operating in this way. They are already showing us what it's like to be a guardian of the grid.
And anything, they've showed hope
Yeah.
to lots of people, and that it depends on everyone. It's not just for a few to create peace, or we can't just be waiting for somebody to bring peace to the world. It's for each one of us to do something every day, every minute, because the more of us that find peace, inner peace, and reflect it to the outside, the more change that we'll see in the world.
Right, so
think
again,
that's it.
yeah, again, to round out today, if you would like to be part of a growing community that is already pretty multidimensional, but it's always loving and supportive for new people coming in, please head over to quantumplanet.world and join up to our site there. We love to welcome new people. There's always stuff going on. So that's it for today.
In Lakesh.
In
I love
Lakesh,
you.
we'll see you on the other side of this big world bridging moment.
Yes.
Ciao for now.